All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Commander Karen Evelyn. I'm the Public Information Officer for this incident. This morning, we're going to be providing updates on the Port Newark vessel fire response, investigation, and salvage. The following members from the Unified Command are present. Captain Zita Merchant, the captain of the port for New York and New Jersey, and the Federal On-Scene Coordinator. Kevin Perry, Vice President of Gallagher Marine Systems and representative for the ship's owner-operator. And Beth Ann Rooney, the Port Director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. After Captain Merchant provides a statement on behalf of the Unified Command, we will open up the floor to questions. But before we start, I'll go over a few ground rules. Due to ongoing operations, we will have about 5 minutes for questions. I ask that you limit those questions to one per outlet and stay within the scope of the response. I apologize, due to ongoing investigations, we are limited in the information that can be released. Please raise your hand and you'll be called upon. State your name and your affiliate before asking your questions. Thank you for your cooperation, and we'll begin.
Good morning, and thank you all again for joining us today to allow us the opportunity to update you on ongoing efforts in response to the fire on board the motor vessel Grand Costa d'Avorio. At our last briefing, we discussed the inherent complexity and the hazards associated with firefighting in the maritime environment, and for this incident specifically. And I want to recognize the forward-leaning and dedicated efforts of the Newark Fire Department on its initial response, along with the other members of the New Jersey Regional Fireboat Task Force and local area departments. I also want to recognize the bias for action of those from our Coast Guard, Port Authority, Gallagher, Don John Smith, salvage teams, and our tremendous port partners and the support agencies like RRT, as we have continued to work together to get the fire under control and the vessel stabilized. At this time, those concerted efforts has gotten us to a place this morning where we can officially declare the fire is out. While this is a huge milestone and something that we can celebrate, we must not lose the sight of the fact that this is merely the first step of a long process, as we now need to consider the salvage and transfer of the vessel, a process that can be hazardous and complex as well. Additionally, and more importantly, we are transitioning to a phase of determining the cause of the fire and related fatalities. Just as this response phase was a multi-agency effort, the formal investigation will be led by the Coast Guard in tandem with our federal, state, local investigators, which includes NTSB, ATF, New Jersey State Fire Marshal, New Jersey State Police, Newark Fire Arson Office, Essex County Prosecutor, and a host of safety agencies to ensure we gain a critical and necessary understanding of the incident. And with the findings of the investigation, we are committed to implementing lessons learned so we do not repeat the tragedies we've experienced here in Newark. Before I close, I want to share our heartfelt condolences once again to the families of firefighter Brooks and Akubu, as well as their colleagues, fellow first responders, and the community in which both lived and served. Their selfless sacrifice is on the minds of all here, and we will never forget, we will absolutely never forget their acts of courage and bravery in response to this fire. Thank you, and we'll now transition for questions.
Please keep the ground rules as we begin. Anybody, first question? Yes. A timeline for the next phase of this?
Well, again, working with the partners that we have here, immediately after today, we will start the investigative phase. And concurrently with that investigative phase, we will be doing salvage operations. Those salvage operations can go between 1 to 2 months, but it really depends upon the sequencing of those events and the available resources. But one of the things that we are committed to is making sure that we are transparent in that process as much as we can give about the salvage process. But as you know, with the investigative process, it will be one that's very thorough, working with all of our partners to ensure that the things that we want to make sure that we get right. But overall, the salvage process could easily be between 1 to 2 months. Thank you.
Sir from ABC 7. The initial thoughts.
Yeah. Well, some of that information specifically that you're asking for is under investigation because we do need to closely look at that timeline to see what happened, what information was passed. At that point in time, I can't share that information with you, but what I can share is that will be a part of the investigation, and that information will help inform how information is flowed in the future to ensure people have specifically our first responders have the information that they need so they can get on scene. So at this point in time, I apologize, I can't share those details, but that will be a part of the investigation. Thank you so much.
Ma'am. So the question is related to the cargo that's on the ship.
So prior to the ship arriving in Port Newark, it had discharged electric vehicles as well as some other new, what we call OEMs, original equipment manufacturer vehicles, in the Port of Baltimore. In Baltimore, it loaded the containers that are on deck. When the operation started here in Port Newark, we were loading POVs, previously owned vehicles, on board the vessel. Those vehicles were destined to West Africa. After the vessel was supposed to leave here, it would go on to Providence, Rhode Island, load additional POVs, and move on to West Africa. So what you had inside the holds of the ship, where the fire, we believe, originally started, were 1,200 automobiles on 9 decks. That is essentially the superstructure that you're looking at of the ship is essentially a parking garage with ramps and levels in which cars are parked. So what we had burning were components and parts of cars. That being said, before they are shipped for transport, the gasoline tanks are all but have a spit in them in order to get them off the ship. Batteries are disconnected and things like that. So there is no report of the cargo that we have on board in terms of the manifest that there were lithium-ion batteries on board this particular vessel. None that have been documented with the manifest associated with the ship.
Ma'am. The air and water quality testing.
Thank you for your question. Since the incident happened, we have been doing air monitoring and water sampling. For the air monitoring, we have received no result. Sorry, all results we received are below actionable levels and did not identify any hazardous substance. The water sampling is currently ongoing. We are starting to receive those results, and we'll continue to look into those results with our assisting agencies.
And I'll just follow up on that a little bit. And one great thing about the Unified Command here is that we have all the different entities that ensure that we do the water quality and air monitoring a part of the Unified Command, so they can help inform what it is that they may find throughout the incident. So from Newark Fire Department, they were doing air quality testing along in conjunction with the New Jersey DEP, as well as doing the water sampling. So that was a integral part of what we were doing during these last couple days and a part of our response.
We have time for one more question, sir.
Just some questions about Newark Fire Department staffing and the initial response. Were all the firehouses operational, and you speak to availability of firefighters?
Firefighter availability and staffing?
Unfortunately, we're unable to speak to that. That would be a question specifically for the city, but we appreciate your interest. But we'll have that, and we'll pass that along to the city for answering. Okay.
I'm sorry, we are out of questions, but unfortunately, they have to go back to operations. But myself and the JIC staff will be available to help answer any additional questions. So please feel free to stick around. We'll get the questions, answers, or anything you need. But other than that, I want to thank you guys for coming today. This concludes our press conference, and you can follow our Twitter for additional updates. That's USCG_try_state, and we'll give you any updates you need. Thank you.
He had another engagement. As you know, it has been quite demanding on them. So yes, he had another engagement.